Part 3. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 21. Chapter 21 Dark Eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, Fujinexi's eyes as black as a deep pool were filled with coldness, but he slowly turned away from Zhao Huiyan, and raised the corners of his mouth with a terrifying smile. Zhao Huiyan's heart suddenly rose to his throat. He had been rude again just now, so he had better hide first, and said to the driver next to him, "Stop the car, I have other things to do." The driver glanced at Fujinexiu, and finally found a parking place to put Zhao Huiyan down. "Boss, I'm still young, so you should be punished more lightly." He left his words without daring to look at Fujinexiu's expression, and disappeared into the night as quickly as possible. Fujinexiu took Zhang Xiaoxi back to the room, found a maid to clean her, and gave her a sobering pill to prevent her from having a stomachache when she woke up in the morning. As soon as he finished doing this, someone who was supposed to be asleep suddenly opened his eyes and said, "Uncle Wu." Fujinexiu frowned slightly and looked at her seriously. "Uncle Wu, I was wrong, I will never go to a bar again." Zhang Xiaoxiao admitted his mistake while holding Fujinexiu's arm and crying. Fujinexiu: "Fifth uncle, I don't like Aunt Zhou, please don't be with her, okay? I will take care of you in the future. You won't be alone, you will still have me." Zhang Xiaoxiao's tears and runny nose stuck to Fujinexiu's sleeves. Fujinexiu lowered his eyes and stared at Zhang Shishi's cold eyes with a touch of softness. "Xiaoxi, stop making trouble." "Fifth uncle, I hate you." After Zhang Xiaoxiao yelled these words, he fell down with a thud. Fortunately, the bed was soft enough, otherwise someone's head would have exploded. Fujinexiu helplessly covered her with a quilt and turned to leave. Zhang woke up the next day and patted her aching head with her hand. The memory of last night came with her, making her think about the dog belt every minute. Was she possessed by the bad god? She could follow him just like that. When the boss met, she could almost think of the miserable situation she would be in if she appeared in front of the boss without using her brain. Zhang Xiaosheng lay back on the bed helplessly. She didn't want to face the boss. She could only stay in bed for the safest time. When she thought of the boss with a serious face and a serious smile, he looked at him as cold as ice, and then asked her to write without mercy. After reviewing it for 10,000 words, her fingers ached. There was a vibrating sound on the phone. Zhang Xiao spent a long time picking it up with his hands before he found it. He opened it with half-squinted eyes and half of his face instantly collapsed. "When you're young, come down for dinner. I know you're awake, so don't let me catch you down." Zhang Xiaoxi's first reaction when he saw the text message was to use his eyes to check whether his room was being monitored from 360 degrees. Otherwise, how would the boss know that she was awake? He was really screwed now. He thought. Here he looked at his fingers with great distress and said sadly, "Brother, I'm sorry for you, I'm afraid I'm going to have to work hard for you tonight." Zhang Xiao slowly took off his pajamas, and when he was about to put on his sweatshirt, the sound of the bedroom door being pushed open suddenly sounded. Zhang Xiao was startled, quickly jumped on the bed, covered himself with the quilt, and then looked towards the door in panic. When she saw Fujinexiu standing at the door, Zhang Xiao's little face turned red, especially the dark look someone looked at her, which was scary. "Uncle Wu, you didn't know there was a knock on the door when you came in." Zhang Xiaoxiao swallowed back the curse words he wanted to say. "Uncle Wu, you go out first, I will change clothes and go downstairs. Remember to lock the door next time." Fujinexiu frowned and finished speaking, slamming the door. Then he straightened his thin lips, tightened his jawline, and quickly went downstairs. I am a child without book reviews. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 22. Chapter 22 Rainbow Fart. Zhang Xiao changed his clothes, went to the bathroom and washed his face with cold water to clear his mind, then opened the door and went downstairs. Zhang Xiaoxiao went downstairs and looked at Fu Jianxiu, who was sitting at the head of the dining table. He let out a breath and then plucked up the courage to go over. He had a great attitude in admitting his mistakes and did not blink the blame when he said, "Uncle Wu, I was wrong. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't go to the bar and drink and dance, but Uncle Zhao encouraged me to go there, so you can't just punish me." Zhao Huiyan, who fled to the set overnight, didn't know that she had been bitten by a white-eyed wolf. Zhang Xiao admitted her mistake without even taking a breath. The first thing a good person must learn is to be flexible, and to be timid in front of big bosses. No one dares to laugh at her. Fu Jianxiu took a sip of water without changing his expression and stared at her with cold eyes. Zhang Xiao was wearing a bright yellow sweatshirt and a pair of ripped trousers on the lower body. Her legs were slender and straight, which was very eye-catching. Zhang Xiao's scalp was numb from being stared at by him, and he started to carry out the second round of strategies. He apologized first and tried to please him, but he failed to flatter him even though he was trying to flatter him. He started the rainbow fart mode. "Uncle Wu, your eyes are so beautiful." Fu Jianxiu. "But it's not as good looking as mine, do you know why?" Fu Jianxiu. "Because my eyes are full of you, Uncle Wu." Fu Jianxiu. Zhang Xiaoxiao imitated Bai Yueguang's way of getting along with the big boss, and bravely stepped forward to hold Fu Jianxiu's arm. He leaned his little head on his arm and looked at him with his big, crystal clear eyes. A kitten who wants to please its owner. "Uncle Fifth, do you know, I was in the bar last night even with Uncle Zhao accompanying me. I felt scared. Now I finally understand why." Fu Jianxiu. "Because I don't feel safe without you, Uncle Wu." Fu Jianxiu's thin lips were finally twitched by her rainbow farts. He stroked the soft top of her hair with his hand and said in a soft voice, "Your Uncle Zhao taught you these flattery." Zhang Xiao smiled and nodded, adding in his mind that these rainbow farts were all provided by a certain sound. Fu Jianxiu hummed and pinched her cheek with his hand. "I don't intend to punish you, just stand up and eat." Zhang Xiaoxiao rubbed the cheek that hurt from his pinching, and looked at Fu Jianxiu aggrievedly. "Uncle Wu, don't pinch your face next time, it hurts." Fu Jianxiu stared at her with a half smile but said slowly, "It seems you like self-reflection letters more." Zhang Xiaoxi was a spineless person. He immediately gave up. He held Fu Jianxiu's big palm in a flattering manner and pressed his face into his palm. "Fifth uncle, you can squeeze it as you like. I have absolutely no objection. As for the review, you can just do it, forget it." In the palm of his hand, the little girl's little face, tenderer than egg white, rubbed against him, and her cold and hard heart turned into soft water. "Go and eat, I won't punish you." Zhang Xiao felt like a heavy burden had been relieved. He had finally escaped. After escaping, his meal was so delicious that he put the toast and juice on the dining table. "The teacher said you want to go abroad." Zhang Xiaoxiao, who was originally in a relaxed mood, suddenly became nervous again. He was too guilty to look at the boss and cautiously tried, "I heard from the teacher that foreign universities are good. Uncle Wu, will you allow me to go? If you don't agree, you don't have to prepare." Fu Jianxiu put one hand on the table and processed the documents with the other. Miss Jiang's mouth twitched. Chu Hanyu was really right, but the boss disagreed. Even if the boss doesn't agree, she can't confront him directly now, so she can only give a submissive hum. "Thank you Chiju, GHDGXJJDBKDK, I have a wonderful recommendation. Vote for Wulu, Yan Ran's cute little girl." It's another day to ask for recommendation votes, favorites, book reviews, and all kinds of requests. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 23. Chapter 23 Chapter 23 The little brat is looking for trouble. Eat quickly and go to the old house. After eating, Fujianexio said. Why are you going to the old house? Zhang Xiaoxiao received Baiyu Egguang's memory and knew that Baiyu Egguang didn't deal with the people in the old house, so she didn't really want to go. Fu Ling is back. Only meow meow. Fu Ling's face flashed through Zhang Xiaoxi's mind, and a happy expression naturally appeared on his delicate little face, right away. Fu Jianexi looked at her, frowning slightly, and his words were tainted with a hint of displeasure. Are you happy that Fu Ling is back? Zhang Xiao felt so miserable that he couldn't express it. The expression on her face was not under her control at all just now. It was her own reaction. She was not Baiyu Egguang, and she was not familiar with that Fu Ling. What should she be happy about? However, this body was out of her control from time to time. She any idea? And what's going on with the boss's sinister tone? He couldn't be jealous, right? Exhausted. Fifth uncle, aren't you happy that Fu Ling is back? Zhang Xiaoxiao returned the question to Fu Jianexi so that he could answer based on his answer, so as not to say anything and be embarrassed by the boss again. Well, he is really a little genius. Fu Jianexi didn't even raise his eyebrows, and said quietly, he will return to Ruguo in 5 days. Zhang Xiao. How should she answer this? Zhang Xiao stood outside the Fu family, looking at the large villa like an old castle, and sighed slightly. Sure enough, in the novel, according to the author's writing, the male protagonist can be so arrogant that no one can match him. When I think about myself in the real world, living in a dormitory in a hospital without even a small nest of tens of square meters, I really feel miserable. What's wrong? I feel uncomfortable. Fu Jianexi put his big palm on her forehead, and the worry in his dark eyes was not concealed. The temperature of the man's palm, through the blood on his forehead, burned her whole body. Zhang Xiaoxiao deliberately took a few steps to the side, keeping a distance from Fu Jianexi. Uncle Wu, let's go in. Fu Jianexi's cold eyes were dark, and his face became a little darker. He took back his hand that was frozen in mid-air and said in a cold voice, let's go in. Zhang Xiaoxiao stroked his heart that was beating abnormally just now, lowered his head, blushed, and followed Fu Jianexi in small steps. Grandpa, this is the fighter model I always brought you. You don't like it? Ling Ling, now that I'm studying abroad, my little mouth is still so sweet. As soon as Zhang Xiaoxiao and Fu Jianexi walked to the hall of the old house, they heard Fu Ling's fawning voice and Fu Yan's teasing voice. Mr. Fu has a total of 5 children, and Fu Yan is the only daughter and the third oldest. The eldest brother is Fu Qiuacheo, the second child is Fu Haiwei, the third child is Fu Yan, the fourth child is Fu Shenzhen, and the fifth child is Fu Jianexi. Fu Yan is the old man's only daughter, so she has never married outside. Instead, her son-in-law came to live with her in the old house. Zhang Xiao had no friction with the old man's children. It could be said that her cheap uncles and aunts all doted on her. The reason why she refused to come to the old house was because of Yumenya. Yumenya was Fu Yan's daughter, 2 years younger than Zhang Xiao. This girl was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. Everyone in the family was obedient to her, except Fu Jianexi. She got all the favor from the Fu family, but she didn't, so the two of them had been at odds since they were young. Every time they came to the old house, the little brat would come to find trouble. Later, she had no time to deal with the brat, and gradually she didn't like coming to the old house. Stay home. This little kid has a sharp eye and came here to find trouble. Sister Xiao, you are here. Zhang Xiao smiled and hummed. Thank you, I have a very affectionate name, GHDGXJJDBKBK, Chiju, Wuru, Kishang, Luminous Lime Eye, Lost Cat, Girl who loves lollipops, recommendations for the taste of happiness. Asking for book reviews, collections, and votes for recommendations. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 24. Chapter 24 Chapter 24 The little kid is looking for trouble, too. Sister, why didn't you bring your boyfriend here? I heard that you went to someone else's house to propose marriage, so why didn't you bring him here? The kid said and looked behind them. Zhang Xiao. This little brat needs to be dealt with. Sister, when I was little, I really envied you. Now you have found someone you like, and Uncle Wu doesn't care whether you are in love or not. Like me, my parents don't allow me to go too far with other boys. Close. Jiangxi. Little kid, don't you feel that the air around you is getting colder? Sister, when I was young, it hurts. Yumenya was about to say something, but she was hit on the head. The pain caused her to grit her teeth and turn her head to see who hit her. What are you looking at? If you want to fall in love, go and tell your mother now. If the third aunt doesn't agree, your brother, I will take you abroad and introduce you to a lot of foreign brothers. Your brother, I am honest enough. Fu Ling held up her pigtails and prepared to pull her away. Yumenya stared at the boss and looked at Fu Ling fiercely. Fu Ling, you bully me, I'm going to tell Grandpa. You go, if you go, I will tell your mother that you like your school's school motto, and you even gave chocolates to others. Fu Ling threatened her with a smile. Yumenya gritted her teeth, bared her teeth and claws, and started to fight with Fu Ling. Fu Ling, if you peek at my diary, I will fight with you. The two children were fighting on the spot. Zhang Xiaoxiao followed the elders silently to say hello to the elders. Grandpa, eldest uncle, second uncle, third aunt, fourth uncle. Zhang Xiao greeted them one by one. Xiao Xiao, come here, third aunt has something to tell you. Fu Yan called Zhang Xiao aside alone. Zhang Xiao glanced at Fu Jianxiao instinctively, and when he nodded, she dared to follow him out. As soon as Zhang Xiao left, there were only a few men left there. Fu Jianxiao found a seat at random and sat down. He was about to close his eyes and rest, but was interrupted by the old man's scolding. There was a little irritation between his eyebrows. Dad, what do you always want to say? Fifth brother, I'm 18 in a few days. It's okay to fall in love. Every child has their first love. Your education method seems to be too harsh. The person who spoke was Fu Qiuacheo. Fu Jianxiao took out a cigarette and lit it, but did not answer Boss Fu's words. The smoke obscured his face, making it difficult to see his expression clearly. Also, I've checked on Yannian's child. She has excellent morals and academics. Her family conditions are a bit poor, but she's still a high-quality stock. Our Fu family is not short of money. As long as she treats her well, it's not impossible. Fu Lauer subjective analysis. Did you hear that? If you stop dating when you are young, do you think she will be an old bachelor in the future just like you and your second and fourth child? Mr. Fu roared twice more angrily. Dad, this is a childhood issue. Why did you drag me into this? Fu Lauer looked at his father speechlessly. Fu Shenzhen did not follow them, but just glanced at his brother next to him under the smoke. His face became more and more gloomy, and he seemed to be angry. He did not want to add fuel to the fire. Others may not know what Fu Jianxiao thinks about Zhang Xiaoxi, but he does. When Zhang Xiao was 16 years old, he saw with his own eyes that his younger brother kissed Zhang Xiao so carefully and reverently. It took him a whole week to digest the news. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 25. Chapter 25 Chapter 25 Uncle Wu disagrees. Fu Jianxiao has been deeply in love with Zhang Xiaoxi for a long time. You brat, you've become mute now that you have to say a word. Mr. Fu saw that he was silent and wanted to hit him twice. Zhang was called to the back garden by Fu Yan when she was young, and the two talked while walking. When I was little, third aunt heard from grandpa that what your fifth uncle did was really inappropriate. What's the matter? Zhang Xiaoxiao and Fu Yan were not on the same channel and asked. Fu Yan smiled lightly and looked at her tenderly. It seems that our worries are all unnecessary. You girl doesn't seem to be affected at all. Your grandfather is still afraid that you will not dare to fall in love after being affected, so he called me. To enlighten you, it seems that this is not necessary. Zhang Xiaoxiao's mind was spinning quickly and he quickly understood what Fu Yan was talking about. Third aunt, I don't really like that Yanian. It's mainly because my fifth uncle is usually strict with me, so I rebelled a little. Don't talk about this again in the future. I also promised my fifth uncle that I will study well. The more she said this, the more worried Fu Yan became, and the more she felt that she was frightened by Fu Chenxiu. When I was young, you really don't have to be afraid of Uncle Wu. If you want to fall in love, your family will support you. We will give you support me, you must not imitate those uncles of yours. Third aunt, I really just want to study hard. I'm not afraid of fifth uncle, Zhang Xiao explained with a headache. If the boss knew that they supported her in dating, he might go crazy. Xiao Xiao, if you are afraid of your fifth uncle, your third aunt will send you to study abroad. Just like Lingling, you can do whatever you want abroad. Fu Yan was afraid that under Fu Chenxiu's suppression, Zhang Xiao would really do it in the future. Like those old bachelors in my own family, it is too late to regret, and I must nip this little possibility in the cradle. Zhang Xiao didn't answer in a hurry this time. Now that she is prohibited from going abroad by the big boss, if someone from the Fu family helps her go out, wouldn't it mean that the sky is high and the sea is wide for her to fly, the sun, the beach, the handsome guy, she can choose. Third aunt and fifth uncle don't agree with me going abroad, and I don't want to go abroad either, Zhang Xiao said aggrievedly. Fu Yan looked at her expression and felt distressed in her heart. The little girl wanted to go abroad, but was rejected by her brother, so she said against her will that she didn't want to go abroad. She must not let the little girl follow Fu Chenxiu, otherwise this would happen in the future. I don't know what the girl's character is yet, but it turns out that men are not suitable to take care of children, so she immediately made up her mind. When you are young, your third aunt will help you complete the procedures for leaving the country. When you get home, when the time comes, my aunt will send you out quietly, and I promise not to let your fifth uncle know. Third aunt, this will make fifth uncle angry. Zhang Xiao said this, and he was already setting off firecrackers in his heart. He wished that he could get it done as soon as possible, break away from the big boss and run towards a free and beautiful life. When Fu Yan and Zhang Xiao returned to the hall, the atmosphere in the hall was depressing. The old man was sitting with a livid face. The teacups on the coffee table were broken into pieces. There were at least half a pack of cigarette butts where Fu Chenxiu was sitting. Even the person who was joking just now was Fu Ling and Yu Menya both stood aside and did not dare to make a sound. System, host, please pay attention to safety. The current male protagonist is very dangerous, with a violence value of at least 500. Zhang Shi, what kind of system is this? Fu Yan didn't know what happened, so she could only walk to her daughter and ask in a low voice, what happened? Thank you, Milk Tea Blue Palace, Huangpu Xiao, law-abiding children, Yan Ran Cutie, boring, sleepyhead, Liruya, green ink broken pen, girl who loves lollipops, rainbow little white horse. I have a wonderful love recommendation. Votes for names. I would like to ask for a few 5-star reviews, collections, recommendation votes, and all kinds of things. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 26. Chapter 26. Chapter 26. She is a freeloader, okay. Mom, I don't know. I was playing with my brother, and suddenly I heard a loud noise, and Grandpa dropped the teacup. Then you saw the situation, and they didn't say a word. Yumenya's voice was very low, afraid of speaking too loudly and turning the flames of war on myself. Fu Yan turned to Fu Ling. You didn't hear it either. Fu Ling shook his head to express that he didn't hear it. Xiao Xiao, you will live in the old house from today on. Mr. Fu suddenly spoke, but the depressing atmosphere in the air did not dissipate at all. Jiangshi. What's going on? Dad, why don't you ask Xiao Wu to come back and live there? If you miss Xiao Wu, you can visit Xiao Wu at any time. Xiao Wu lives not far away. Fu Yan took this opportunity to interject. Do you know what this said just now? The old man's chest rose and fell violently, and he was angry. This boy said that as long as he didn't agree, he wouldn't let her get married even if she was 80 years old. He also said that he wouldn't let her come back in the future. Listen, what are you talking about? He is a bachelor, and he wants to let my family be so beautiful. I was just like him when I was young. Why did I end up being such a jerk? Every time the old man said a word, the breath around Fujianxiu became a little colder. System, host, the male protagonist's violence value has increased by 5%, please pay attention to safety. Jiangshi. Xiao, please apologize to Dad quickly. Fu Yan wanted to be the peacemaker in the middle. Fujianxiu didn't even raise his eyelids and continued to light up an unknown number of cigarettes. This attitude completely off the old man. From today on, I will be raised by Yu Yanyan as a child. As far away as you can go, the old man will never think of you as his son. Mr. Fu's face turned red and his neck became thick as he spoke. System, host, be careful, you are about to be in trouble. Jiangshi, she is a melon eater, okay. System, host, you are the source of the disaster, so you cannot be a common person. Jiangshi. Grandpa, I don't agree. Grandpa, I don't agree. Yumenya and Zhang Xiaoxi looked at each other almost at the same time. Yumenya didn't like Zhang Xiao, so she spoke against such low pressure. Zhang Xiao is doing it for his own life. Yaya, you have no business talking here, go out to play with your brother. Fu Yan looked serious and scolded Yumenya sternly. Mom, I don't agree with Zhang Xiao following you, I don't want it. Yumenya shouted with red eyes. Fu Yan stared at her with furrowed brows. Yaya, you are disobedient, aren't you? Mom, I am. Yumenya was dragged out by Fu Ling before she could finish her words. Without Yumenya, Zhang Xiaoxiao walked to Fujianxiu, gently tugged on the corner of his clothes with his little hands, and said to the old man obediently, Grandpa, I won't follow anyone, I will only follow my fifth uncle, so don't do it because there was a quarrel about my affairs. I was really wrong this time. I didn't want to fall in love. I just explained it to my aunt in the garden. Grandpa, if you miss me, call me, and I will come back to see you. After Zhang Xiaoxi finished speaking, the depressing atmosphere around him relaxed a lot, especially the hostility on Fujianxiu's body. If you look closely, you can see the slightly raised corners of his mouth under the smoke. System, host, the hero is in a good mood now, you are safe. Jiangshi. What kind of system are you? I'm walking back. Fujianxiu threw the cigarette on the ground, took Zhang Shishi's little hand and prepared to leave. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 27. Chapter 27. Chapter 27. You can find a man to come back. Zhang Xiao stood still and scratched the palm of his hand with his little finger. Uncle Wu, let's go after dinner. I haven't picked up the gift Fu Ling prepared for me yet. Fujianxiu stopped, looked at her with soft eyes and said, okay. Zhang Xiao was inexplicably relieved. She was still afraid that the boss would not agree to stay. If they left like this just now, Mr. Fu would be angry and sick. Mr. Fu was so kind to Bai Yueguang, so he should help Bai Yueguang fulfill his filial piety. Of Grandpa, I'm hungry, when will dinner be served? Zhang Xiao said coquettishly to the old man. The old man glared at Fu Jianxiu and groaned, venting his dissatisfaction with his son. Seeing how sensible the little girl was, he shouldn't have let the little girl choose her own guardian back then. When he thought that his lovely granddaughter would be a bachelor, the old man I just want to cry. Xiao Xiao, come here and help Grandpa, your fifth uncle is not old enough to need help. The old man called Zhang Xiao to his side dissatisfied. Zhang Xiao was about to rush to help the old man, but before he could even take half a step, he was moved by the collar by the person next to him, and then the low-pitched voice of the boss rang in his ears. Fu Ling, come in and help Grandpa go to the dining room to eat. Zhang Shi. Xiao Si, I think Xiao Wu is too strict with Xiao Wu, why don't we help Xiao Si? Fu Hiwei walked beside Fu Shenchen and whispered. Fu Shenhu looked at the two figures in front of him, pushed up the frame on the bridge of his nose, and kindly reminded him of this nosy brother. Second brother, I advise you not to interfere, otherwise with Xiao Wu's character, you may know more freedom. Fu Hiwei. Which of you can help me save my childhood from that bastard? Old man, I swear that I will not care about your marriage. You can do whatever you want. Old man, I will be your backing. The old man heard them. The dialogue between them and putting down the harsh words is bound to help Zhang Xiao escape from the sea of suffering. Dad, you keep your word. Fu Hiwei was very excited when he heard that he was not urged to get married. Keep your word, even if you bring a man back, Dad will agree. The old man really spent his money this time. Fu Hiwei. Is this his biological father? He is straight. Grandpa, I want to be a star, do you agree? Yu Menya also asked the old man eagerly. Agree. Fu Yan glared at Yu Menya fiercely. Manman, kid, what are you doing with this nonsense? Yu Menya walked past her mother and said, Grandpa, you keep your word. Ded bye. Fu Shenzhen sighed slightly, quickened his pace, and left this group of people seeking death. Thinking about Xiao Wu's methods, his scalp went numb. It was a wise choice not to join them. Zhang Xiao was dragged to the dining room by Fu Jianxiu. The dishes were already placed on the table. When the old man arrived, everyone sat down to eat. Xiao Xiao, this is a gift for you. Fu Ling handed her a beautifully wrapped box. Zhang Xiao happily took it and imitated Bai Yueguang's way of getting along with him and thanked him. Only meow meow is enough to be a friend. Fu Ling rolled his eyes at her and said, Zhang Xiao, didn't you agree not to call me do meow meow? It's awful. After saying that, he took a piece of the fish in front of him and gave it to Zhang Xiao. When he saw that Zhang Xiaoxiu's bowl was already filled with vegetables, he couldn't help but complain, Zhang Xiao, are you a pig, eat so much? As soon as he finished speaking, he received the caring eyes from Fu Jianxiu. Thank you Yan Ran for the tip, my true fan, this is a must. Thank you Pinelia, the season of rain, treasure every, I have a name that is extremely emotional, Yan Ran little cutie, Pan Chia's parents' recommendation vote. Continue to ask for recommendation votes, collections, book reviews, and various activities. My baby wants to be on the free new book list. I love you. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 28. Chapter 28. Chapter 28. You are saying it again. Fu Ling was shocked and put the fish meat back into his bowl. When Zhang Xiao saw that her bowl was full of vegetables, she pursed her lips and told the boss with her small eyes that she couldn't finish it, and there were leeks and carrots that she hated. Don't be picky about food, just finish eating. Zhang Shi. There are still a few days before the National Day holiday. Why don't you go abroad with Lingling for a few days, Fu Yan said with ulterior motives. Zhang Xiaoxiu's dark eyes calmly glanced at the boss's reaction, and politely refused, Third aunt, I'm just reading at home. There's not much time before the college entrance examination. When you are young, just go. When you get abroad, I will take you to see the university where I study. If you want to go abroad in the future, you will have a direction. Fu Ling was eager for Zhang Xiao to go abroad with him. By then, he would be abroad. He also has a companion, so Fu Yan's proposal just suits him. I am studying in the city to prepare for college. I don't want to go abroad. Zhang Xiao has a strong desire to survive. But it's okay to go out and have a look. Third aunt, please tell me if what I said is right. Fu Ling pulled Fu Yan and asked her to help her speak. Just as Fu Yan was about to speak, Fu Chenxiao's cold voice sounded first. I will take my children abroad. As for you, when you should go back to school, go to school. During this holiday, you will do an internship in a foreign subsidiary. Fu Ling. How did he offend his fifth uncle? After hearing what Fu Chenxiao said, Fu Yan frowned slightly and thought about how Zhang Xiao would go abroad. After dinner, Fu Chenxiao went to the company to handle official matters, while Zhang Xiao stayed behind to have dinner before leaving. Once Fu Chenxiao left, it was like there was no one to restrain him. When Zhang was a child, he was like a monkey released into the forest, having fun with Fu Ling in the back garden. Zhang Xiaoxi, let me tell you, don't even think about letting my mother be your guardian. I will never agree to it. Yumenya crossed her arms and looked at Zhang Xiaoxiao condescendingly. After Zhang Xiaoxi calmly handed Fu Ling to the general, he stood up with a half-smile on his face. I said, Yumenya, aren't you tired? I have made it very clear that I will only follow the fifth uncle. You now this makes me suspect that you are the one who picked it up and feel so insecure. You are the one who picked it up, you little that no one wants. Yumenya said, nonsense. Zhang Xiao's eyes changed, and he stared at her coldly, with chills all over his body, and said coldly, you are saying it again. The way Yumenya looked at her, a chill spread from her forehead to the soles of her feet. For just a moment, she seemed to see the shadow of Fu Chenxiao. That kind of aura that made people fear, and fear from the heart made her unable to speak clearly. I'm too lazy to tell you. Fu Ling looked at her disappearing figure in a panic, sighed helplessly, and patted Zhang Xiaoxi's shoulder to comfort her. Xiao Xiao, don't be like her. You're a little brat who needs to be taken care of. I'll help you take care of it later. Zhang Xiaoxiao slapped his hand off his shoulder, looking extremely depressed. I'm going back first. If you tell Grandpa, I'll go back to makeup lessons. Child, don't be angry. Fu Ling chased after her and stopped her. Child, once you leave, Grandpa will definitely deal with me. Step aside. When I was young. Fu Ling originally wanted to stop her, but when he saw her, his face was bloodless and his eyes were red, and he immediately became mute and watched her leave. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 29. Chapter 29. Chapter 29. I am the most favored one. Zhang Xiao didn't know what was wrong with her. Those words about little bastard made her heart throb violently. The sadness radiated from the cracks in her bones, and she had no way to control it. The afternoon sun was extremely bright. Zhang Xiao raised his head and squinted his eyes when he looked up. Suddenly his vision went dark and he completely lost consciousness. When you were little, you listened to your mother and climbed out. Quickly climb out and find someone to save us. Mom believes in you. No, Mom, I don't want to leave. When you were little, you were obedient and found the person who rescued your mother. Then your mother could take you to the amusement park. Can you be obedient? Don't want. Boom. Don't want. Zhang Xiaoxiao screamed, but before she could react, she was embraced by a warm embrace, giving her a sense of security. A low and gentle voice sounded in my ears, when you are young, don't be afraid that Uncle Wu is here. Zhang Xiao's curled eyelashes trembled slightly, her pink lips relaxed and breathed out. She waited until her mind was completely clear before she pushed the person hugging her with her small hands. Uncle Wu, I'm fine. Fu Chenxiao slowly let go of her, his face was stern, his long eyebrows on the temples were furrowed, his dark eyes were stained with scarlet, and the concern in his eyes was undisguised. Is there anything uncomfortable about you? Jiang's face was still pale when she was young. She was recalling the dream, but she couldn't remember it. She looked at the surrounding environment and found that it was not a familiar place. She frowned slightly and said, Uncle Fifth, are we still in the old house? Well, do you want to go back? Fu Chenxiao said while arranging the sweat-wet hair on her forehead with his fingertips, his movements extremely gentle. Well, I want to go back. Fu Chenxiao helped Zhang Xiaoxiao go downstairs. Miss Zhang saw Yumenya kneeling in the hall, still sobbing. Several adults looked ugly. Uncle Wu, what's going on? Zhang Xiao asked in a low voice. Fu Chenxiao's cold eyes darkened, and his cold voice was still tinged with anger. Learn the rules of the Fu family again. Oh. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't ask any more questions, nor did he go to see more. He quietly followed Fu Chenxiao and prepared to leave. She wanted to leave, but someone refused to let her go. When Yumenya saw Zhang Xiaoxi, she felt aggrieved. She didn't care that Fu Chenxiao was still standing next to her. She ran over to her with red and swollen eyes and pointed at Zhang Xiaoxi resentfully. Zhang Xiaoxi, it's all you, why did you show up here? Without you, I would be the most beloved little princess in this family. Why would my uncle be so kind to you but not to me? Why should I be punished when you faint? I am related to him by blood. My relative, and you are just an outsider. Why do you want to take away my favor? Jiangxi. You fainted and the whole family was scolding me. Did I say something wrong? You are just a little that grandpa picked up. Snapped. The crisp sound of slaps resounded through the entire hall. Fu Yan looked at Yumenya with an angry face. Go to the ancestral hall and kneel down. You are not allowed to come out without my permission. I know the rules of the Fu family by heart. I won't go. Yumenya couldn't believe that her mother, who she didn't hold in her hand, actually hit her. She felt aggrieved and had a stubborn temper. She looked at Miss Zhang with hatred in her eyes. You all like her, so from now on, I have nothing to do with the Fu family, and you are no longer my relatives. I hate you. After saying that, he straightened his back and left the old house without looking back. Xiao, this kid Manman is just jealous, you. Fu Chenxiao narrowed his bottomless cold eyes, said nothing, and left with Zhang Xiaoxi. In fact, every family probably has a willful little sister like this. Manman is not a bad person, the little girl is just jealous. Thank you Xjjadkadk, I have a very affectionate name, Chiju, for the recommendation vote of Yan Ran Little Cute. Continue to ask for recommendation votes, collections, book reviews, and all kinds of requests every day. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 30. Chapter 30. Chapter 30. You and I are in the same household register. Zhang Xiaoxiao, who was in the car, raised his eyes slightly and could see the man's strong profile. It was different when he had the aura of a male protagonist. This face alone was enough to add to his beauty. It's just what happened just now, I'm afraid the boss will feel a little sad. After all, Yumenya is his biological niece, and the two of them have 1/3 of the same blood, because she was an outsider and made trouble. Fifth uncle, actually you don't have to be so nice to me. Fu Chenxiao turned his head, raised his eyebrows, and his eyes quickly darkened. Who do you want to be nice to you? Jiangxi, this is simply impossible to communicate. Fifth uncle, what I mean is that Yumenya is right. You and she are related by blood, and I am an outsider. You are really right, and don't be so nice to me. You care about what Manman said. Jiangxi. Don't pay attention to what she said, you and I are on the same household register. Jiangxi, it sounds like it's so easy to get a misunderstanding. It was already 8 o'clock in the evening when Zhang Xiao returned to the villa from her old house. After a hasty dinner, she lay on the bed and thought about the dream during the day. The fragments were incomplete. She was certain that this body had no memory of that dream. She roughly calculated that the total description of Miss Bai Yueguang in the book does not exceed 10 chapters. There must be a reason for her sudden dream like this. So I allow her to make a guess. As a senior novel fan, there are only a few types of plots in novels, and Miss Bai Yueguang is very likely to have this kind of plot. There must have been some dispute between Miss Bai Yueguang's family and the male protagonist's family. This festival may be good or bad, no matter what it is, Miss Bai Yueguang is now being raised by the Fu family. If Miss Bai Yueguang hadn't died in the first 3 chapters, this novel probably wouldn't be called The Substitute Wife, My Husband is So Fierce. It should be called The Boss's Record of Raising a Wife. Thinking of this, Zhang Xiaoxiao cursed, did the system bring her here? Isn't it just for her to help Miss Bai Yueguang find her life experience? System, host, please take back the Mary Sue routine in your mind. Jiangxi. I went to this garbage system to cheat. System, I can hear what you are thinking. Jiangxi, then tell me, what kind of thing are you? System, this year's host is really difficult to manage. Host, I'm just a reminder system. MS Zhang. What the hell, the reminder system, the golden finger she dreamed of, and all the awesome functions are gone. This is an entry-level product, and the boss strongly requires it to be returned. System, it is despised. System, host, I just said it, I can hear what you are thinking. Jiangxi. Zhang Xiao was silent for a while and continued to talk to the system. Since you can hear what I'm saying, I'll get straight to the point. I'm very dissatisfied with you. Do you have a return system? The system's mechanical answer, sorry host, you have no right to choose. Jiangxi took a deep breath to prevent himself from scolding, but it was of no use. You piece of rubbish, a certain treasure still has 7 days for an unconditional refund, why can't you refund it? You can't let me open it up, but don't let me be awesome bitch ACHA, what do I need you for, a reminder system, what do I want you to remind me of, remind me that I am about to die, or remind me how beautiful the weather is today. System, congratulations on getting one of your answers correct, I just want to remind you that it is life-threatening. Zhang Xiaoxi. And flashes of MMP floated through my heart. Mr. Fu Ba, you and I are in the same household registration book. Zhang Xiaotang, guardian and ward. Mr. Fu Ba, husband and wife. Zhang Xiaotang. Baby wants to recommend votes. End of this chapter.